Hello class, welcome to Lab 0, the short version. So let's get started by going to our website. CIS106.com, and over here we're gonna go to Lab 0, Learning Markdown. The long video is available over here, and let's start with question number 1. Install VS Code, and to install VS Code we are gonna Google VS Code, click on download, download the installer for your operating system, and then do the installation as you install any other program in your computer. Once the program has been installed, we're going to install these extensions over here. So we're gonna go and open VS Code, and to install an extension is actually quite simple. All you have to do is go to the gears icon over here in the corner, click on extensions, search for the extension that you want, for example live server, and then click on install. It's a little button that appears over here, and then you look for the second one, third one, fourth one, and install it. That's it. Once you have done this part, you need to create a GitHub account. To create a GitHub account, you go to github.com, and in the corner over here it's gonna say sign in or sign up. You're gonna click on sign up, and you're gonna simply do exactly that. Create an account. Just same way that you do it with any other web page that you have ever signed up for before. In this case, you're gonna be using your PCCC email address, please. You're gonna create a repository called CIS106. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna delete these guys first. Actually, I'm not gonna delete it. I'm just gonna go back here, and to create a repository, you can just click over here, the plus sign, new repository, and here you're gonna put the name of your repo. I'm gonna call mine CIS106.2 because I already have other repositories with that name. If you took my class in the past before and you already have a repository called CIS106, just make sure you name yours something like this: CIS106 hyphen Spring 22, to indicate that this is the repository for the Spring 22 semester. You can provide a description if you want, and then you click on create repository, and you're done. Leave this page open because we're gonna need it later. Next, question number 2. In the documents folder, create a folder called Lab 0. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna go click on documents here, new folder, documents, Lab 0. Done. In your downloads download the following file. So we're gonna highlight this and go. Download. And that's it. Next, decompress the zip file in your Lab 0 folder. So we're gonna open this, and we're gonna grab this. We're gonna toss it in here. It's supposed to be inside here. Done. Inside Lab 0. Perfect. We're gonna close that. We're gonna close that because we don't need it. Next, open VS Code and open the Lab 0 folder. Perfect. So we're gonna open VS Code. We're gonna click on File, Open Folder, and then go to Documents, Lab 0, select Folder. Done. Let's move this to the side. This is our file manager over here. Question number 3. Read this presentation. What is Markdown? Perfect. So let's go through the presentation. So in class we went through what Markdown is and what do we use it for. So let's start talking about how do we format text in Markdown, right? So let's start with headings. Headings are those I'm just gonna create a file over here to use it as a boilerplate to show you all the formatting, and I'm gonna call this example that MD. Your Markdown files needs to be .md or .markdown. That's what indicates that they are Markdown files. So headings are this. Let's call this the. Let's give it a second. My apologies if this is slow. I'm working inside a virtual machine. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna call this Linux, for example. This is the main heading of my document. You can call this the main title of my document, right? And it can be, you can know that it is by the number of pound signs that is at the beginning. If I want to create a heading number 2, all I have to do is provide 2 hashtags, and then history, for example. This is gonna be a subheading inside the history part. And over here, if I want to create a level 3 heading, I can call something like the 90s, right? And something like that. Now I'm gonna add some. I'm gonna leave it over here, and we're gonna go back to the presentation to show you something. As you can see, the number of pound signs indicates the level of the heading that you are providing. Now I want to open a little Wikipedia article real quick. Let's put the word Linux here. When I talk about headings, I talk about this. You see this? And this, heading 2. Then under this heading 2, we have heading 3 to separate different sections of text. This allows you to organize your page or your document accordingly. Simple. That's how you do headings in Markdown. Now, paragraphs, right? Do we have to do something special for paragraphs? No, not at all. We don't have to do nothing special for paragraphs. What I'm gonna do here is, and I'm doing this for the sake of demonstration, is to keep the video as short as possible. I'm going to install an extension called Lorem. It allows me to generate random boilerplate text. So I'm gonna close this, and I'm gonna write a paragraph here. So insert a paragraph. That's it. If you want to write a paragraph in Markdown, all you have to do is type. No need for formatting, no need to provide no special symbol, no nothing. Just type. I'm going to click on save. One of the extensions that you installed in the question number 1 is called Markdown Preview Enhanced. If you right click and you click on Markdown Preview Enhanced, it opens a preview on the side that shows you how your document is looking like. For instance, why don't we add another paragraph over here? Why don't we add another paragraph? As you can see, it organizes my document very well. Now, be mindful. Paragraphs, you need to divide them by a space so that Markdown understands that it is the end of one paragraph and beginning of another. Now, you can format words and parts of a paragraph. For instance, you can bold, you can strike through, and you can italize. How do we do this? Actually quite simple. If you want to bold, all you have to do is use 2 star signs at the beginning and end of the section that you want to bold. For example, I want to bold this word over here. So all I have to do is 2 stars, 2 stars. Notice how it gets bold. If I want to bold the entire paragraph, I put 2 at the beginning, 2 in the end. The whole thing is bold. If I want to italize, all I have to do is provide a single star, and now is italics. I can also do it with underlines. I don't know if it's supported. Yeah, it is supported by the preview. It's either underline, one single underline, or a single star will do the italics or italics. Italics, I think that's the way it's pronounced. Cursive. There you go. Now, if you want to strike through, you can do 2 tilde signs at the beginning, 2 tilde signs in the end, and it strikes through. One thing you need to understand, Markdown doesn't support underline. Underlines are used for hyperlinks in the web. So Markdown doesn't support underline. Something you have to deal with. Now, let's move on. How to create lists? Very simple. Lists are very, very simple. Just type. For example, 1991. 1992, 1993. Notice how the numbers are appearing on the side automatically. 1995, 1996. If I want to create a list under a list, all I have to do is tab and the numbering updates automatically. For example, day 1, day 2, day 3, right? And I can continue on doing a list under a list under a list. Day 3.1, day 3.2, day 3.2.1. If I want to go back, just delete. Just backspace takes you back. As simple as that. That's for order list. On order list or bulleted points lists, all I have to do is start with a star and a space. And let's say pets, dogs, cats, food, pizza, potato, rice, country, USA, UK, Ireland, and that's it. That's how bulleted list and order list work. Now, you don't have to use the star. You can use a plus sign, for example. I can do computers, HP, Dell. I can also mix and match. For instance, enter, tab, Apple. And it continues on and on and on and on. Notice that the preview renders them all the same. Here's another example. Block quotes. What are block quotes? Well, let me show you. A block quote is a specific portion of a text that you want to turn into a quote. How do you do it? Start with the symbol. And that's it. Done. Done. Greater than, space, done. And type your quote. That's it. As simple as that. Let's put another one over here. Insert a paragraph. See? Done. Code blocks. Sometimes when you're creating documentation, you want to highlight a specific code, right? You want to provide an example of how something is done in code, or you want to highlight a particular command. It is useful to format code and commands using code blocks because that lets the reader understand that you're providing something as an example, and it makes your document looks nice as well and makes it easier to read. How do we do code formatting or code blocks? Well, let's just start with this. Let's start, for example, let's say that I want to provide an example of how to write hello world in Python. So let's say this is how you write hello world in Python, right? To insert my code block, I start with 3 backticks. Here I can write my code. And then when I'm done writing my code, I end it with 3 backticks. Notice how it renders over here. I can also do this. This is how you write hello world in Ruby. If I want to provide a piece of code in a single line, right? I don't want it to be in a code block just on the same line. I can do it with a single backtick. For example, puts hello world. Done. And notice how it looks. In a single line, the same formatting. The difference is this is a code block, this is an inline code formatting. And that's it. This is very useful when we are explaining commands. For example, if I'm writing a guide on how to update Ubuntu, I can say to update Ubuntu, use the command where sudo gives the user super user privileges to run administrative tasks and update refreshes the package database and upgrades the programs that need upgrading. Notice how nice my paragraph looks over here, and it makes it so easy for the reader to understand what I'm talking about. With that said, let's go back to our presentation. Now, links, and how do we provide hyperlinks in our text. And for that we use this formula over here. We put the text that we want to transform into a hyperlinks into a square brackets, and right after we provide the URL in question in parentheses. For example, to learn more about Linux, visit this page. And what I want to do is that I want the user to be able to click on the word page, and when they click on the word page, they can be redirected to here. As you can see, the moment I click on the word page, it sent me to the Linux website, the Linux information page in Wikipedia. And that's how you do links, right? As simple as that. Now, with that said, how do we do then images? Almost the same formula. The difference here is that we need to provide an exclamation mark at the beginning. For instance, let me look for a picture online. Tux, the mascot. This is the Linux mascot. Here I need to provide a description of the image. Tux, the mascot. Here I need to provide the URL to the image that Markdown is then gonna look for on the internet and place on the document. Now, too bad that this is a terrible URL. We'll need to find something better. Let's see if this is better. And nope, it's equally terrible. Open image in a new tab. There you go. Let's see if this works for us. And yep. As you can see, this is my image. Now, you don't necessarily have to use images from the internet. You can use images that are stored in your computer. How? Same formula. Exclamation mark, open and close brackets, and I'm gonna say Ubuntu logo, for example. And here you need to provide the location of the image inside your computer. Now, because we're getting started with Markdown, what I want you to do is, when you're working on your actual question, because here we're just learning how to use it, grab these files and move them outside. In that way, when you are placing them over here in the location, all you have to do is provide the name of the picture. For example, ubuntu.png. Later on, when we start working inside Linux, we're gonna explore more this idea of placing the image in their proper location and all of that, which is called absolute path and relative path. We'll explore that more in when we get inside Linux. For now, let's keep it as simple as we possibly can, right? And as you can see, I follow the exact same formula. Description of an image, and then location of the image. Instead of being on the internet, in this case, it's located inside my computer. And this works because my document is inside the same folder as my picture. With that said, let's keep going. Tables. Tables are a little complex, but you get the hang of them. For tables, you follow this formula over here, right? You build them exactly like you see over here. This is the header of the table, and this over here is the content of the table, columns and rows. For example, let's create a table of pets, right? So we start by providing a pipe in the beginning, and then we call here pet name, right? And over here we're gonna provide type, and then over here we're gonna provide owner's name, right? Now we provide another pipe and we start drawing our table. That's it. Now we start providing the rows, the data. So pipe again, pet name. We're gonna call this Lucas. The type, dog. The owner's name, John. Now, I like to do it this way to keep my table like clean in my Markdown document, but you don't have to do all this spacing and all that. As long as you keep this format this way, it will render properly. Make sure that you put a space before starting to create the table and after you create the table, just to keep the formatting straight. I have noticed that in some occasions when you don't do it that way, it actually breaks the formatting for some reason. Okay, so and we can add more information here as well. Pet name, Beba. Type, cat. Owner, Maria. And that's it. I can also put images inside tables. For example, let's create another table called, we're gonna call this table Ubuntu variants, right? And we're gonna call variant logo, variant name, and then yeah, that's it. Variant logo and variant name. Simple table. As an example, right? Then we're gonna follow the exact same formula. Bang, open square brackets, Ubuntu desktop, and then the location of the image, desktop that png, pipe to separate one value from the other, and then the name, Ubuntu desktop. And then we end the table. As you can see, I believe this is the name of it. Ubuntu.png. Perfect. So you can see I inserted a picture inside my table. This might look a little crazy, but trust me, you get used to it as much as you get used to it the more you use it. And we're not gonna be building that many tables anyway. What we are mostly gonna be using is code blocks formatting, paragraphs, and headings for the majority of the, and also images, placing images in documents. That's what we're gonna be doing for the majority of the course. But hey, every once in a while, for your final project, you might have the need to create a table. So there it is. There is also some GitHub specific syntax, like the ability to creating checkboxes, and the ability to also code highlighting. If you want the code to be highlighted as Python code because you were writing Python code when you submit it to GitHub, right, in your documentation, you can just provide the name of the programming language right after the three backticks, and it will look something like this, which is pretty nice. And if you want a cheat sheet of Markdown, I'm pretty sure I haven't updated this. Yeah, I haven't updated this. I will provide you a cheat sheet of Markdown via Slack, so be aware of that, because for some reason this link was removed, but it's easy to find online. If you literally Google Markdown cheat sheet, you'll be able to find it with no issue. This one over here. Okay, so with that said, let's go back to our lab. So once you have read the presentation, which we just did, you are going to recreate the document called what is ubuntu.pdf. How? Well, let's clean up a little bit. I'm going to delete this file because we don't need it. Put to recycle bin, yes. And we're going to create a new file here by clicking on this icon and call it what is Ubuntu, what is Ubuntu submission.md. That creates our markdown file. And then we are going to open this file, what is ubuntu.pdf. So we're going to go here, we're going to go to documents, lab 0, and we're going to open this guy. I'm going to open it with a real PDF reader. I don't even know why it's set to Microsoft Edge. And amazing, I don't have an actual PDF reader here. It's terrible. Now I do. Yep. Just give me a second so I can have one of these PDF. There you go, Sumatra PDF. Done. And properties change. Done. Okay, so now we have our PDF file over here open in our PDF reader. And what your goal now that you have, now that you know how to write Markdown, is to practice it, right? Because we learn for a reason. So what I want you to do now is try to replicate this document. You have all the knowledge that you need to replicate these documents, how to use images and tables and formatting your text and everything. So that's what you should do now. Inside this document, for example, Ubuntu. I encourage you to copy and paste as much as you can so that you don't have to background, right? So we need that image over there. So let's put that image in there, and that image is called desktop. Sorry, desktop image, desktop.png. Enter, and then we need to provide this text over here. So I'm just gonna copy and paste it to make my life easy. Copy, paste, and this is a hyperlink Linux distribution. So let's see where that link takes us. Let's copy this. Save. This is another hyperlink, Internet of Things. There you go, right here. Save. And as you see, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm just replicating that document over there. If you open the preview, notice that, wait until the image loads. There you go. It's already looking as it's supposed to look like. Let's close that. When you are done replicating that document, you need to convert that to PDF. How do we do that? Simple. Right click, export to PDF. You also need to export this as HTML. How do we do it? Right click, export to HTML. That's one of the extensions that you installed on the previous question. If you don't see those options, it's because you didn't install the extension. Ooh, an error message. I like error messages. Let's take a look at this. Manage extension. Failed to launch browser process. Path to Chromium or Chromium extension. Okay, no problem. Let's fix this real quick. Chrome. Open file location and properties. Copy. Paste. Okay. Let's try one more time. Export to PDF. Perfect. And now let's export to HTML. By the way, what happened is what the error that I got over there was because for some reason the Markdown converter extension lost its configuration, because that extension uses the Google Chrome engine to convert to PDF and HTML. So what you do if that happens to you is you go to the settings like I did and you provide the absolute path of where your web browser is. If you're using Edge, Firefox, Chrome, whatever you're using, you just provide the absolute path in that box that appeared over there, and that solves the problem. If you are having that issue and you cannot crack it on your own, just reach out to me and I'll guide you through a Google Meet. Sorry, through a Zoom Meet. Now, notice that this is my PDF file over here. Obviously, mine is incomplete because I haven't completed. And this is my HTML file over here. Beautifully made an HTML file. Let's take a look at how this HTML file looks like. If you click on Open with Live Server, and we have a nice HTML page. Obviously, there is no CSS added to this, no, because it's just plain HTML, but there you go. Now let's minimize this. We can close that, and let's continue with the lab. So once you've done that, question 5, export the file to PDF, docx, and HTML. Don't worry about docx. You don't have to do docx. Just do PDF and HTML. I don't need the docx one. I'll fix that later. And then we're going to upload the files inside Lab 0 to our GitHub repository. And that's quite easy. We're just going to go back to our GitHub repo, which is not that one. It's this one over here. This is our repo, and we're going to click on Upload an existing file. We're going to click on Choose Your Files. We're going to go to Documents, Lab 0, and we're going to select all of this stuff except the folder Lab 0. And we're going to click on Open. Make sure that before you do this, you save your file. Because if you upload it without saving the file, you are uploading an empty file. That happens quite often. So make sure that you go File, Save As. Sorry, not Save As. File, Save. You gotta save before you send anything to GitHub. Just keep that in mind. So once we've done this, in Blackboard, you're gonna give me the PDF file, the Markdown file, and the URL to your GitHub repository. So you're gonna give me this URL over here. Right, sorry. Let's click on Commit Changes. If you don't click on Commit Changes, it doesn't work, and something went wrong. Let's try again. Something went horribly wrong. Am I not signed in? Yes, I am. Committing files to your repository. Try again. Let's try again. Something, it's not working. It's not working right. Okay. Added files for Lab 0. Oh, they were already there. No wonder why I was failing. Now, you're gonna give me the URL to this. So we're gonna copy this, and we're gonna go to Blackboard. So there you go. Lab 0, and then over here we're gonna click on Browse Files, and you're gonna give me the Markdown file, you're gonna give me the HTML file, click, and you're gonna give me the PDF file. Click on Open, and over here click on Write Submission, and here you're gonna give me the URL to your GitHub repository. Then you click on Submit, you got your 100. That's it for Lab 0. If you have any questions, reach out to me via Slack.